everyone. This is Critical Conversations. My name is Sam Castles. This is my great and gracious co-host, Jared Bessie.
What's up, everyone?
And yeah, here we are, another day, another episode. Last week we did a little bit of news. This week we're kind of back at it again. This channel, you know how we do. We'll mix it up. We'll have a topic one day, news the other day, trying to be balanced, trying to be informed, trying to have some good dialogues. But today we're so close to the election, Jared.
We are so close to the election. I mean, we'll have an episode next week, and then by the following one, we should know. So
right. Like in the future, I'd love to be ambitious and talk about these deep philosophical things. But right now, I'm like, the election is in 20 days, or not 20 days, 10 days, 11 days, 12 days.
Yeah, it's
13 days.
2 weeks.
14 days?
14 days. 12 days.
Are you sure?
Yes.
12 days.
Thursday.
Leads me into my next topic. Jared and I just finished debate, which is why it's Thursday.
It is
the
Thursday.
Reason that leads me
That was a plan. That was a planned transition. That was all scheduled. Yep.
It was because of my inability to do math. I'm going to explain a little bit about what we just did. What did we just do, Jared?
Watch the debate.
What did we just do? We watched the debate, and what did we do to get through the debate?
Nothing else. I'm pretty sure we just sat here and watched it, right?
Nothing else. Nothing else. Yeah. Sam had 1 or 2 whiskey drinks, which was great. Very helpful.
I think it made the debate way more entertaining for everyone involved. So,
highly recommend sobriety. That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah. So that's why I can't do math. Chalking it up to that. Might be a little bit looser today, but yeah, honestly, getting back on track. We just felt like we're a little too close to the election to really talk about anything else, the news, and just kind of bump it around, and then hopefully after the election, if the election ever ends, may never end.
It may never end. We might be in February, and we're like, "Mom, we don't have a president. It's Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Get back from the dead."
Oh. A plot twist and all plot twists. If you bet on that, you will be a millionaire.
Dude, hey, you never know. Trillionaire, I would think. The first one.
I would think too. First one. All right. So yeah, we just talked about the debate. We're gonna have a little bit of quick hot takes. The debate was like 40 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago?
Yeah, it just ended like half an hour, so it's not been long.
These are the freshest takes. Jared and I have heard no real pundits' opinions.
So I haven't read much about it. I was following along with the 538 chat a bit, but didn't read the wrap-ups or the summaries or anything yet.
Yeah, I was kind of on and off Twitter throughout the whole thing, but
yeah, for sure.
So what's your take, Jared?
First take is so much better than the first debate. So infinitely better. Which I was reading earlier today that almost all incumbents face a tough first debate because they're like, I'm on the stump all the time, I'm gonna be fine, and then they get up there and they're like, oh shoot, we saw that with Bush, saw that with Obama, and then they were able to turn around the second debate. So we only had 2 debates, so the third one it obviously didn't, or the second one didn't happen, and this is the third one.
Yeah, we had those 2 town halls.
Right, we had the town halls for
Did you watch those?
I did not. I read a couple of the main stuff, but it didn't seem like anything was productive. It was just versions of their stump speeches.
Right, exactly. I see these guys. Right, I see these guys hold press conferences and debates, or speeches. So
right, the whole point of the debate is having them on stage talking to each other, interacting,
answering the same questions. Really easy to contrast. Yeah.
Yes. So I would say Trump did an infinitely better job this debate. I'd say Biden probably had a similar performance. Yeah, it was solid. No big gaffes, no big mistakes.
Right.
Straight down the middle. He, avoided a few questions, but they both did. Typical politician style. Whoa. Going dark.
I know, right? I was a little too bright.
But yeah, so I think in that sense, it was much better. I also really appreciated the moderator. I think she, especially towards the beginning, she was more hard-hitting on Trump, asked him a couple follow-up questions more than she did Biden, and always let Biden get the last word. But in general, she wasn't super argumentative. She was very good about, the candidates were better about stopping when they were supposed to stop. She was very good about keeping them on track, making sure if they wanted to respond, they had like 10 seconds. It was much more structured in that sense.
Yeah. So
So
you're welcome to keep going after this, but I did want to say it was sort of interesting that this was the debate where they were going to do the muted mics and like each topic, those first 2 minutes for each candidate was going to be the other mic was off, uninterrupted. But it almost seemed like they didn't even need that rule. Like both candidates seemed really much more civil. And I think last debate, it's probably fair to say Trump was the one who sort of initiated and led the interruptions. But I do think Biden reciprocated a little bit. But it seemed like whatever Trump's pregame strategy was, he got the memo loud and clear. Like the American population did not respond well to interrupting that much. Like, I think it's like we had talked about, it's important for you to put Biden off his game and try to get him to sort of gaff in the way that the Republicans want to paint him. But allowing him to speak a little bit longer was definitely Trump's pattern. And there were times where he was speaking and the moderator was like, all right, we have to move on. And he stopped right away.
Yeah, especially
not every time, but
I'd say it got a little more loose towards the end.
Right.
Well, they both did, but like especially
of course, as expected.
That first half hour, it was like as soon as someone was said to stop talking, they stopped talking. And I was
very civil. I think, just a better debate, right? Like, you actually got to hear them out.
Yeah, more substance, I think, for the most part. Like, I think they, is typical politician stuff, but I'd say it's probably not as civil as all like past debates or whatever, but it was much more on track and on par with.
Sure. Yeah, I know. Our bar for what's like okay and civil has like drastically changed from a couple of years ago.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So overall, pretty good. Jared and I watched together, and something we kind of noticed right away is like, I'm getting deja vu. These are sort of the same questions this last debate, and in a sense, they have to be. Like, we of course are going to talk about coronavirus. How can you not talk about race again? Like all of that. But there wasn't really any new, fresh stuff.
There was some more emphasis on international stuff. I think they talked about North Korea for a little while.
Yeah, that's
more than last debate. I think Trump did a very good job during that section, being like, "Here's what I've done in North Korea. Like, it's so important to have these relationships with different people, even if we haven't gone to war. They had no big military action has been taken by North Korea, so." I thought that was a pretty sound point. Yeah,
something I saw on Twitter around this time was, and this is like generally true. I mean, if you think about the left and right on foreign policy, usually the right tends to lean a little bit more interventionist, a little more critical on Iran, Russia, China, like, and the left tends to be more like, let's stay at peace. We don't want to interfere too much. Like, let's do us, let them do them. And on North Korea, kind of ironically, I thought Trump was being really aggressive with, like, Biden was being aggressive. Right. He said Kim Jong-un was a thug and Trump's been too nice and talks about these beautiful letters. And it's sort of almost a role reversal where you have Biden being the more critical, the more harsh, like more creative. And he kind of was the same way on Russia too. I mean,
no, I'd say in general, like, Trump as a populist, as opposed to a traditional conservative, is much more like, America first. Like, that's been his whole rhetoric, right? Like, we've really shifted on that. And then I don't even think the lefts and like Democrats have really switched their position as so much as they've taken whatever is the opposite of what Trump is. I don't really know if this is now what they believe. I can't really tell.
No, that definitely makes sense to me.
So I still think we didn't get, so switching topic a little bit back to they started with coronavirus talking about, I think we still didn't hear anything clear from Biden really what he would do. It was like kind of nebulous, like he wouldn't do shutdowns, but he would if they needed, but like he wouldn't shut down the country.
Right. But sort of, that line where he would shut down the virus, not the country.
Right.
One of those great politician lines where you're like, going to do away with the bad, but it's all going to still be good.
But I'd also say Trump didn't say anything that much either about.
It's the same as last debate, right?
I think he did a better job, because I didn't like what I talked about this last time, was that Trump the whole time I felt like was just like, you wouldn't have done better. You would have killed more people. He didn't really use that messaging because I don't think that tracked well, because
Right.
it's like, that doesn't matter. And he more focused on like, I just went through this, like, we're going to be okay. Here's the things I'm trying to do for the American people. So in that sense, I think it was pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. 100%.
Um,
What else? About climate change a little was the same back and forth on fracking, a little bit on windmills.
yeah, Trump was talking about how they're not very effective. He likes solar, but solar isn't there yet. Biden was, wants back in the Paris Accords.
Yeah, there's back to back on the fracking issue, which I think is interesting because I think both candidates ignore the nuanced point, which, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've always thought like, okay, Biden's general take, he's waffled a little and I think he's misspoke, but the campaign has
Right.
always corrected. And it seems like the consistent way to pin Biden is that he doesn't want any new federal fracking. He doesn't want any like new fracking, but he's not going to ban existing fracking. And
Right. And
I think he wants to phase this away, right?
Right. And I think he hasn't been clear on that. But that's one of those things
because
like,
that's uncomfortable, right?
Right. Because it's a little more nuanced. It's not a soundbite. It's a little bit more like,
right.
You can't explain it as quickly. And I don't know. But
yeah, America apparently doesn't take well to nuance because neither candidate seems to display it.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. They talked about race, which I don't think there was anything that crazy said on either side.
Yeah.
I was moving I had to walk upstairs during that section, so I wasn't paying as close attention. So I'm interested to read more about what people felt about that. But
I mean, Trump had kind of said typical stuff like, you did the crime bill, I was good.
Yeah, okay, so they did. Yeah. So that was kind of a big thing. They talked more about the crime bill and more about unemployment rate and kind of past stuff than they were talking about specifically like BLM and like protests, and the violence and stuff.
Right. Yeah, something that Trump kind of kept returning to as a common theme throughout the debate was, look, you're the guy who's running on this sort of America isn't living up to what it says it should be. We have a long way to go. But you're the guy who's been in office for 40 years. And he returned to that over and over. And I honestly, I didn't think Biden was ready, like, with the response. He just kind of laughed it off and moved on. But something he did say a few times was, well, I was the vice president. I wasn't the president, which I thought was kind of throwing Obama under the bus. I don't know. Maybe it's not.
I mean, I can see it, but like, it's tough because if you're a career politician, your goal is to constantly doing your goals constantly. Like, like it's a cyclical thing. So like, you never want to be out of power. You're never going to try to be out of power.
Right.
And it may not necessarily be for power's sake either. You might have truly good, like a good intention behind it.
Yeah. Well, so
that argument does, like, I think is true, because it's like, okay, you did have 6 years where you had a majority, like you know, and then 2 years where it was Republican, but like, so I understand, like, you still want to do more.
Because I think I saw that in the 538 chat that we kind of looked at. Like, I forget what her name was, but she was saying that, like, well, under Trump's logic, then no vice president could ever run for president because you had your chance or whatever. But my sort of retort to that is like, well, Biden is the one who's claiming like America has been whole and hasn't been governed well, and we've had these years of inequality, years of whatever, and we've never lived up to what we say. So like, I get it, but
when you were part of that system this whole time,
like, not only is Biden running when he used to be in power and was in power for all these years, he's also running on this sort of America was never great or whatever, which like it's a nuanced argument for sure, but I think it's more complicated than just saying like, well, he was vice president or senators, can he still have any deals? I think it's fair to say, well, he's also condemning the past and all of that.
Right.
So yeah, that was just a common theme. I thought Trump was hammering that.
No,
and Biden
especially
was
the
saying,
second half, especially the second half of the debate,
yeah,
like on
which
climate, like on race and climate change, because like two things that are very, legal that like are not recent as much.
right,
Like, why have you not been working on these things?
right, yeah, which is coincidentally where the debate sort of started to derail. Like it was definitely very civil in the beginning, and it started to get a
Mhm.
little bit more tight. But overall, like we said, night and day. I think
Yep,
from
for
last
sure.
debate, much more civil. I think Trump and the campaign must have got the signal loud and clear that
I
like
mean,
this constant interrupting.
Trump was writing stuff down at one point. Like, I don't know who that
I've
guy
never
is,
seen
but
him do
like,
that.
what?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I thought it was a clear pivot from the Trump campaign. Biden was sort of the same way.
right.
And to Biden's credit, like I think he kept it together well. His gaps were pretty minimal. Like there was a couple times that he struggled with numbers, but he always does that.
Always struggles with numbers.
He's
And a couple of
really
start sentences, but
I understand it, like millions, billions. Like at that point, it's all monopoly money. It's very hard to keep track of, but he does that consistently. He has a really hard time. Every time he wants to say million, he says billion. He wants to say billion.
You never know. Yeah, exactly.
But I feel him. I do that too, and I'm 60-some years younger than him. So.
Right.
Oh man.
So old. Okay, it's fine. They're both old.
Great.
Anything
else to say?
I don't think so. All around, enjoyable watch. I'm sure a ton of less people tuned into this one than the last one because they were like, "Well, that was a train."
Maybe.
So
yeah, maybe.
Who knows?
Go ahead.
Okay. I also think it's interesting. Like, so many. Like, I was reading 40 million people have already voted or something. It is, or maybe it was 40% of who turned out last time it already voted. Anyway, a crazy high number of people have already voted, and so it's like this is such a late
records are being shattered. Yeah,
it's such a late debate. So is this really going to change anyone's minds? A lot of people have already voted. So
yeah. I was wondering if it's normal to have debates this late into the game, like after early voting's been started.
I think they were postponed because of Corona. As long as they were, and then they were scheduled 3 weeks in a row. I don't know that for sure, but I'm pretty confident.
Yeah. It feels like it, right? Like it feels like there's no way we should be having the third and final debate after
less than
millions
2
of
weeks
people
before
have
the election.
voted. Yeah, or hundreds of thousands, whatever the number is. People say millions, and they almost never mean millions.
Right, because then we realize how many millions actually is. It's like, oh wait, hold on.
Yeah. Like, wait, I doubt that many.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. That was my exact thought process.
Yeah, I don't really have any other thoughts on debate. I mean,
no.
I think we kind of said this last week, but was anyone's mind really changed? Maybe. Although, go ahead.
Since we're on the topic, I just wanted to give a quick rundown of like where we're at in the election.
Yes.
So we don't have to circle back around to this at the end.
Yes.
But so if I'm just using 538's election polls, and I think they're more bullish on Trump, or they have been in the past, a lot more than other sites. So I think it's like shows even more of a fair credential. But basically, current polling is Biden is favored to win 87 out of 100 times. So it is, and so Trump has basically a 12% chance.
Yeah, it's been dropping narrowly over the last month.
This whole
dropping
last
consistently.
month, it has gone down and down and down.
Which, to be fair, doesn't necessarily mean that Biden's polling better, but it means that 538's model, and they've said this is not me assuming, that the model accounts for how far out we are. So, for example,
for sure,
the model isn't going to say, oh, Trump only has a 2%, because they know, like, if it's 4 months out, because they know there's still 4 months of time.
There's still a lot of time to change.
Right. So as we see the debate coming closer, or the election day coming closer and closer, we notice, okay, well, the polls are not really shifting. Therefore, the margin needs to sort of narrow down toward Biden's, or not narrow, but like get slimmer for Trump, because there's less days for him to sort of bring it back. So
and I don't think this debate while it was definitely a much better performance from Trump, I don't think there's anything that was like, oh, wow, that's going to be, the headlines tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but I mean, also, like, it's worth saying, like, 13%, 12% is not impossible. Like,
of course,
I think we often are like, well, it's so low, there's no chance he wins, but that's not how that.
Right.
Those are not conflict. I think that's the mistake we made in 2016.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, he only has a 20% chance to win. Definitely won't win or whatever.
Right.
30 something, but
yeah. Like I feel like as a applied math major and a chess player, where you have like rating gaps where you play someone and you have a 13% chance to beat them, like based on your rating. Like that's literally what the rating means. I feel like I've started to learn and respect like 13% chance or 10% chance does not mean 99% chance. Like,
right.
We see these things happen 1 out of 10 times, and like starting to like you play a lot of chess games or whatever, you start to realize like, oh, that's kind of a lot. Like, it's more than you think.
Especially when you are such the underdog. You feel like such the underdog.
Right.
There's no chance, but then it's still.
Yeah, it's sizable. And then you
1 in 8 chance that Trump wins. Like that still seems like when you put it that way, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, also you factor in a lot of people think like people have been questioning in the validity of the polls, and people think that there are a lot of Trump voters who are like shy voters and don't want to publicly support Trump. And yeah, there were, I mean, in 2016, we saw a lot of people will say, well, the polls were not that wrong. Like, and I think there is some merit to that, but there were also instances where like in Michigan, didn't Trump won Michigan, right?
Yeah, in 2016.
Yeah, he was polling abysmally in Michigan.
Yep.
He was polling so bad. And I think that's a scenario where you're like, yeah, that was way off. So I mean, regardless of what you think, that is a big question as well. That like, if you look at the betting markets, I think they have Trump at like 30% right now. So I still think Trump is the underdog, but it's there's still a few days to happen. And polling is dubious, and something that I've been coming back to a lot is it's something we have to remember is if you call someone on the phone, you might get a vote like one way or the other, but it's a different thing to actually get turnout, like motivated voters that say, I'm enthusiastic. If it's a 2-hour line or I'm going to miss seeing my friend that I plan on, like, I'm still going to vote. Like,
I think voter turnout really matters. We're going to see some crazy records this year. That's my thoughts. So
it's going to be high, but I'm not sure if the pandemic is going to throw people off. Like it's going to slow things down a little bit. I don't know.
We'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Cool. All right. Well, you got some other news for us?
Yeah, a little bit. This next story, I'm going to talk a little bit about Bolivia. And full disclosure, I'm not very well informed, but I know that's what you want to hear from your podcast host. But basically, I think it's important to look into this for yourself because anything.
Yeah, I think it's because it's something I didn't know about till you mentioned it, and I like looked into it and read about it a little bit. I think it's worth knowing about or hearing about, even if we don't like know all the details, right?
Right. Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in American politics this type of year. I mean,
right,
as you should be probably, but I think it's really interesting to notice that Bolivia, basically, and you can correct me if I get anything wrong on this, Jared. Oh, here's the BBC. I love BBC articles. They're very like bullet point oriented.
Yes, they're very easy to skim and read.
So basically, Bolivia just had a general election to determine president, and last time they had the election.
Yeah, so a little bit like it. So a couple years ago, they had an election. The far left candidate won
the general election.
And then they were like, U.S. got involved, or there was some coup. Basically, we don't really like. I don't know like all the details behind that, but basically,
this is where you should look into it yourself.
Right. They basically instituted this right-leaning president instead of this one that was voted, and so it was like, okay, this is what it is now. And then they just had this another election recently, and the left guy, the same guy that ran last time, won by a huge majority. Like,
right. And I wouldn't just say left. I mean, he's a socialist, right?
no, yes, for sure.
Like self-identified, whatever.
Yep.
So Bolivia has, for a second time, elected a socialist, but this time the coup isn't imminent or supposed to happen this time.
Right. I think there's less that can be done about it. So
that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
To track. I think a lot of people think that like socialism never gets elected in or hasn't happened in a bunch of cases. But here's another one where we see a socialist get elected, and a lot of socialists here in America are like, oh, we have to look to Bolivia, how to win the general election. And I know a lot of right wingers are like, well, rest in peace, Bolivia. Like,
right.
Good luck with that. But I do think it's good for both sides to be like, all right, let's see where this goes from here.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's good to be informed about that.
So yeah, it looks like it's just been a year since the coup. So not long.
Yeah. They had election next year. So I would definitely look into that if I were you guys, if you're interested. What else do you want to talk about, Jared?
So other news story. So this is kind of back to what we've been talking about with the Twitter and elections and all this crazy misinformation and stuff. So Charlie Kirk, if you don't know who Charlie Kirk is, he's the young conservative leader of Turning Point USA. He's only in his late 20s. He's been doing it since he was in his teens, like starting this organization. They're like go on college campuses, talk about conservative values, whatever. He's fair
to call him a little polarizing, probably.
Very polarizing. He's very like blunt, straightforward. He kind of has crazy eyes, and he'll just like say exactly how it is. Like I'd say,
he's one of those like liberalism is the disease kind of thinkers. Not a lot of nuance, not a lot of tolerance.
Nope, just like shuts you down. Like this is how it is. Like yeah. So yeah. Anyway, he shared an article from where was the article from originally? Was it a Hill article? It was a Hill article.
Yeah, something legit
on Twitter. Yeah, it was a typical article. You know, I'm looking at it now. It has 1,100 comments. 25,000 shares, whatever. And the headline is Pennsylvania rejects 372,000 mail-in ballot applications following primary confusion. So basically, the article just talks about there's all these ballots thrown out in the general election or in the primaries because of just a whole bunch of mistakes. People didn't know what they were doing. What we've kind of talked about in the past. But basically, Charlie Kirk shared this on Twitter and was banned and just gone.
Yeah, this is a couple days ago. He still does not have access to his Twitter.
Yeah, I was like, I think he's still gone. Like we talked about this yesterday, but I think he's still like.
Yeah, how many followers did he have?
I don't know, but I would guess it's a lot, especially because it's a young. Like okay. It looks like he is back. Okay, he is back.
He's back.
He is back. He has 1.8 million followers. So that's a lot.
1.8 million followers. Oh, he is back.
He is back, but that he was not this morning.
Yeah, when we talked about this, he's tweeted like so many times.
So many times
since he got back. But yeah, he was off for 3 days. Looks like.
Yep. Anyway.
Wild.
From the 18th to the 21st. So I guess he was back yesterday. Yeah. Anyway. So that's really interesting just because he's such a and obviously he's one of the people that talks about all these kind of issues. And so it's interesting that he got banned. I don't know any big leftist person who has almost 2 million Instagram or Twitter followers is getting banned. So I don't know. I think we'll talk about censorship more in the future, but that was just this week that happened. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things where, if you see like a big right-wing journalist or pundit or whatever get banned on Twitter, and then they'll go out and say like, oh, I got banned for sharing an article, like a reputable article, and then you should be at least a little skeptical. Be like, what? There's no way Twitter's just doing that, because then it feels like they would ban a lot of people.
Right.
But then in the defense of Charlie Kirk or any conservative or liberal, whoever's been banned, is Twitter is terrible at transparency, and
Right.
they won't. I mean, I haven't seen Twitter sort of debating Charlie Kirk or what's the word? Offering any conflicting evidence saying, no, we banned you because of this or that or whatever.
Right. I mean, it took them 12 hours to do the whole thing we talked about last week. Like,
right. New York Post.
Yep.
So yeah, it's fascinating. I think they're every day I get more and more skeptical of what's going on with big tech, and I know a lot of people will on the right will say, oh, of course they're left biased and they're banning the conservatives, and I know the people on the left are very hesitant to buy that story. And at the end of the day, I think it doesn't really matter what you think, because this is going to be a huge issue. Like you're not going to get away with this. Like it's coming up.
We're going to be talking about it for a while.
Yep. Sure. It's not going away. So yeah, we'd love to talk about this on the show at some point and sort of dig into that. And there's so many conflicting opinions, like we've talked about, sort of with fake news and cancel culture. Like we've hit on this a million times, I feel like, in our short life. But yeah, so Charlie Kirk is back, but a 3-day ban for one of the bigger, conservatives on Twitter it's a big deal.
Yeah,
for sure. It's not easy to just, overweight or whatever.
All right, what's next?
This is kind of a silly story, but 50 Cent, who is a rapper and a Black African-American, outspoken lately on politics, has decided to endorse Trump, basically on one issue, right?
Yeah, he basically said he read Biden's tax plan. I want to see if I can share my screen really quick, because I think this
is feel free to just pull up
too good not to share.
Or 50 Cent's Twitter.
This is just the I think you can see
the New York Post.
On the New York Post side. 50 Cent says, I don't want to be 20 Cent, and I think that is just incredible.
Yeah. So yeah, he basically read the Biden tax plan, which is for individuals, or I don't know if it's individuals or households. It might be individuals.
I think it's individuals, but yeah,
that make more than $400,000. The tax rate could be up to 60%,
yeah,
60%, 62%, depending
something like
if
that.
In Florida or California or New York. There's a couple other ones, but yeah, I'll share that. Oh, what? Did that tweet go away?
The one that you sent me?
Yeah. Twitter's giving me issues. All right. Hang on, everyone. The tweet that I saw, it's not loading. I don't know what that means. All right, I'm going to see if I can find it. This is unexpected. I'm scrolling through his Twitter. He's been tweeting like a crazy person. October 8th, I've scrolled too far.
I don't know. Right. I think we can't find it. But anyway.
Basically, the idea, like you said, he even said, he was like, I don't care if Trump doesn't care about Black people. This tax plan is ridiculous. All right, I found it. I'll go ahead and share my screen for a second. Trigger warning, there is an F word that's partially censored. So you can do what you want with that information. Watch this for a second. What the F? Vote for Trump. I'm out. F New York. The Knicks never win anyway. I love that little aside at the Knicks.
It's so good.
So unnecessary, but he threw it in there. I don't care. Good. Trump doesn't like Black people. 62%. Are you out of your effing mind? I like how he censored these two F-bombs, but not that one.
Those without the last one. Yeah. It's pretty good.
Super funny.
So good. It's just like true New Yorker, just like, screw the Knicks. Like,
yeah. Anyway. So he's just been on full tirade since then. A lot of, obviously, very few celebrities or musicians or whatever are actually for Trump.
Hey, and
he's under a lot of fire for that.
He may not care about Trump, and he just wants to stay rich. And so, he's just like, I don't want this to worry about these taxes. So it's like, well, that's fair.
Yeah.
I just find
it's sort of yeah, it is funny. And I realize like even talking about this could be considered like a right-wing thing to do, because at the end of the day, there are very few like celebrities that vote for Trump. There's very few or African Americans tend to vote for Joe Biden. So usually when you see a celebrity and a Black celebrity vote for Trump or endorse Trump, the right wings loves to blow that up and endorse that.
Right. But, Kanye, the famous example, obviously.
Right. I think the left will say, like, why are you talking about this? This is the minority. But I think the right will say, like, it's important to talk about this because it's an important exception. And, like, there are more than you think and all of that. People want to say, well, a couple exceptions doesn't matter. But anyway, you should look into that yourselves. And I think it's really interesting. And I think 50 Cent's very influential, and a lot of people have been talking about it. And, that's something that I have heard from a lot of African-American celebrities or African-Americans in general. Is like, just Biden, don't take the Black vote for granted. You still have to earn it. Like, we have to talk about issues that matter to Black voters, and you can't just, like we said, take it for granted. So I thought that was an interesting short story to share. Pretty funny, if not informative.
This is another kind of funny. This is probably a little bit right wing too, but I think it's just worth sharing. If I can find it. Oh, basically, so a study from the AP News talking about late night comics, specifically Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Fallon. 97% of their jokes during September were about Trump, whereas 3% were about Biden. That is 455 jokes about Trump and 14 about Joe Biden during the month of September. Which, when you're on a TV every day, that's a
well. That was in 1 month.
That was in 1 month.
I didn't realize that.
455 jokes about Trump in 1 month.
Wow.
So anyway, that's really all I had to say about that. There's nothing.
No, that is interesting.
I just find it funny.
Yeah. Because didn't they say, like, in 2016 it was more like 23% to Hillary and 77% to Trump?
So just for comparison, in 2016, Trump was a punchline for 78% and Hillary 22%. So I mean, it's not that. I mean, it's definitely more exaggerated this year.
Yeah, I think that is kind of funny. Like, last year, they were like, "Oh, we have to be fair. Like, gotta hit them both." But this year, they were like, "Oh shoot, he won last year. Like, we have to make the jokes." And so,
yeah,
that's funny.
I love it. Anyway,
late night.
That's it.
All right. I think we've talked about the election. I don't know. Did we talk about NPR? I don't know.
NPR. I don't remember what that one was.
The only thing I'll say, NPR basically is also refusing to cover the Hunter Biden story.
Yeah.
Because they were like, this is a distraction. It's not real, so we're not wasting people's time with it, which is an interesting strategy for journalists to just assume it's fake and not real. But
I think it's worth. I said this last weekend. It's worth talking about. What's worth talking about, but whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And at the end, like, it's funny because NPR is like the government funded one, right? Like, it's the public one, and it's pretty interesting for them to just decide that this potential dirt on Joe Biden is not even worth talking about. So that's why we haven't run any stories on it. Which is that was their official statement. Is we're not running any stories on it because we don't think it's legitimate. So a lot of conservatives that say NPR is left leaning, whatever. So you can look into that, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting. All of this Rudy Giuliani, Hunter Biden stuff is escalating. We're not really gonna get into the weeds in it tonight because, first of all, it's just developing. Like, it's
still. I mean, yeah, there's so much we still
wait
don't
and
know.
See. Yeah,
there was the guy that was on the Hunter's staff or something that was friend or something that was like, yeah, it was definitely happened. It's like, okay, but who knows?
or whatever. Yeah.
So who knows?
Yep. I think at the end of the day, it's probably wise to assume both parties are sketchy. Like, Rudy finding this hard drive and choosing to release it now. All of that is a completely fair criticism. So whatever, it's been turned over to the FBI and allegedly, who knows? Like,
who knows? Well,
I think developing story for sure.
Last thing I'm going to say before we do our recommendation, I think this is just super interesting because this is someone who I really like and want to talk about. But so John Piper, if you don't know who he is, he's the guy that has Desiring God website and Desiring God book, and like is really big in the evangelical pastors community, specifically written a million books. And he's retired now, so he's no longer a pastor, but he still writes a lot and he still is active. I think he has a podcast probably.
Probably one of the most influential pastors of this generation.
Yeah, like, I mean, so many young evangelicals love him and read his book and look up to him. So he wrote an article, which I recommend you read. I'll probably link it below. Called Policies, Persons, and Paths to Ruin. But basically the article is him talking about how we as Christians often conflate certain sins and certain issues above other ones, specifically saying that the issues of pride and immorality, boastfulness, vulgarity, facetiousness, and whatever are toxic for our nation. So basically, he never says Trump, he never says Biden, doesn't use any names, but it's very scathing against Trump. And basically saying, like, we can't, like, you shouldn't have to just choose one sin over another. And so anyway, I find the article really interesting read, especially as coming from someone so influential in that sphere and very different from a lot of other evangelical mega pastors.
Yeah. Well, most pastors, you know, and I think John Piper makes a point to not really do this, but most pastors don't really want to get involved with politics, don't really want to say, I'm voting for this or whatever. Yeah. And again, John Piper did not say, I'm voting for one or the other, but it's pretty obvious that he's voting for neither.
Right. He's definitely not voting for Trump, and I'm pretty sure not voting for Biden either, based on what he was saying. So I would assume he's voting third party.
Right. Or not voting or something.
Or not. But, or not. Yeah.
But yeah, which is, I absolutely get that from the perspective of pastors. Like, you know, they just feel like they're called to do the Lord's work and they don't want to be, like, politics is sort of tertiary, secondary to what they feel called to. So
yeah,
I understand that politics can get in the way of their ministry, then politics is not that important to them. So
yeah, so this is an interesting article that he's spoken, which he, you know, at the place in his life where he can have the least amount of, you know, like back talk or, you know, like backlash. That's what I'm looking for from like, these kind of things, because he's retired and his base is pretty solid. Anyway, so pretty interesting.
Yeah, I would definitely give it a read. I think we talked about this, but at the end of the day, like, can't ever be mad at someone for voting their conscience. You've thought about it and you've been informed and you've done some research and you vote for who you honestly think is best, then of course it's like, who can be mad at you for that?
Yeah, I agree.
So great. Recommendation time?
Yep. Take it away.
All right. Coming to you on Disney Plus in 8 days is The Mandalorian season 2.
Yeah.
So I watched The Mandalorian season 1 when it came out last year, which was
like last December, early January, yeah.
About then, I really liked it. I think it's not like, you know, a masterpiece, but it's very, very chill. It has like this kind of westerny, like, relaxed, where will the story go sort of thing. Like,
it's standalone episodes almost. It's very, very Star Warsy feeling.
Yeah.
Very
Baby Yoda is adorable.
Of course.
It's nice to have like a little bit more Star Wars in your life. And I especially feel like it's a nice contrast to episode 9, and where it's like every plot point just thrown at you and it's just like bam, 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 bam. And Mandalorian takes its time and it goes slow, and there's time for, there was even a little humor in that last episode, and
which I watched sitting in your living room. So
that's true. I forgot about that. Yeah, so Mandalorian season 2 is coming out in 8 days. If you haven't had a chance to watch episode 1, Season one.
Yeah.
Go ahead and do that. If you don't have access to Disney Plus, hit me up for the login. I'll hook you up. And yeah, I definitely recommend it. It's fun. I think
season 2
should have some good stuff in it. So.
May have Ahsoka, maybe Captain Rex, some fan favorite characters, maybe even Boba Fett. Who knows?
I hope so. It'll be good.
Cool.
I'm looking forward to it. That's my recommendation for today.
Awesome. All right, let's wrap this up. It's getting late.
It is.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We always appreciate it. We are on Facebook, Critical Conversations, and we are on YouTube, and we are on podcasts, and we are on Spotify, and Google Podcasts. If you've ever used Google Podcasts. Google started talking to me. Shoot.
Oh my gosh.
Could you see her back there?
I heard her. She was like, "You say Google?" Say Google?
I did.
Dude, my phone does that. I'll say like, "Are you serious?" And then Siri will be like, "You called?"
Yes. So we're on all those things. And next week we may have a guest. We may be talking about something else. We may be talking about an election. Unknown. So
yeah, we have one more episode after this before the election, and then Tuesday will come.
Yep. Tuesday will be here. Taco Tuesday. Aren't you guys excited?
Taco Tuesday. Do you remember the Lego movie where?
That's what I was thinking of.
Oh, what does it stand for?
It's Taco Tuesday.
Where he's like the S is silent.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. All right, I'm looking it up. This is important.
Hold on.
What does taco stand for?
Freedom
Lego movie Cora. Tentacle arm Craigle outside sprayer. Or tacos. The S is silent.
Taco for sure. Yes, too good. And then they changed it to Freedom
Lego
Friday.
movie. Watch the Lego movie.
That is
bonus endorsement. Lego movie.
Incredible movie. 10 out of 10.
So good.
So good.
Yes. Check us out. Thanks for watching. We really appreciate you guys. If you have thoughts, send them your way. If you hate something, text Jared. Don't text me. If you have positive feedback, text me. So.
Okay, I see how it is.
We appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
Everyone.
Thanks for coming.